Hello there, my name is Paul the Star Wars Guy, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I know what you're thinking. This video has nothing to do with Star Wars, and you're right. See, this was somewhat of a requested video, and I'll explain how this came about. So, I am a channel member of the YouTube channel Echo Base Network at the Jedi Master level, and one of the perks for being either a Jedi Knight or Jedi Master member of this channel is the guys that run the channel, Coach and Nick, will every so often host a movie watch party for all the members on Zoom. And we had one of those this past Sunday, and the movie they showed was The Last Starfighter. Unfortunately, on my end, I was having some connection issues, so the picture quality on my end was little more than the slideshow. I was able to hear more than what I had seen. Now, this was my first time ever watching the movie, but I could tell from what I was hearing just by that alone that it was a great movie. But because I had such poor picture quality, I wanted to see it again, this time with my own copy. That way I didn't have to worry about connection issues. And when I told Nick this, he said that he wanted to know what my thoughts on the movie really were after I actually saw the movie instead of just listened to it. So that's what this video is about. So like I've done in my past videos, I would usually give you two different perspectives on this movie, what I thought of it the first time and what I think of it now. But in this scenario, I really don't need to do that because this, for all intents and purposes, is my first time seeing this movie. So let's get right into it. So for those that are not familiar with this movie, the basic premise is that this kid in a desert trailer park plays this game called Starfighter regularly. It's an arcade game. And one night he is playing this game and ends up beating the high score. Well, come to find out, the universe that this game is revolved around is real. And this guy named Centauri comes down and recruits him to become an actual starfighter to help save this alien race called Rylos, or Rylans rather, to, as the movie says, defend the frontier against Zor and the Kodan Armada. And at first he doesn't want to, but then when he sees that Earth could be in trouble too, he eventually becomes a starfighter and becomes the last starfighter, unfortunately, and ends up saving the day. So that's about as basic a premise as I can give it. Yes, some spoilers in there, unfortunately. But let's get into what I like about this movie, because this is probably the first non-Star Wars movie that I've seen in a while that's its own standalone thing that I've really gotten into. These days, anytime I watch a movie at all, it's always a movie that's like one in a series of connected movies, be it a trilogy or a much larger story like the MCU. This is the first time in a while that I have seen something that stands on its own, even though allegedly there's a sequel coming out. But I gotta say, for a movie that stands on its own, it's a great movie and certainly a welcome change of pace to all these movies that come out that are connected to one another. It's not often anymore that you see that happening in today's movie industry. These standalone movies often at times get overshadowed by the bigger, more connected stories of, say, the MCU, for example, or Star Wars, or the DC cinematic universe. But back onto the movie itself. Now, if you remember in my A New Hope, or really the original trilogy series, I brought up something that I called the hero's journey, and basically framed it in the story of Luke and how he started out as this guy that started as an ordinary guy that started from humble beginnings, that got called on this grand adventure to ultimately defeat evil. Well, that is The Last Starfighter down to a T. You have the main character, Alex Rogan, by the way, played to a very well degree by the actor that played him. You have Alex Rogan, who starts out as this handyman, this neighborhood handyman in this trailer park in the middle of, I'm guessing, Arizona, where it's California, I remember on the license plate. So he starts out as this handyman in a trailer park that wants to go to college in the big city, but doesn't really want to go to the little city community college. He wants to go like to a big university. And he applies for a loan, but is denied. And he's playing the Starfighter game. Beats the high score. And then suddenly Centauri comes in and takes him to the real actual planet of Rylos, where the Starfighters are from. And of course, he is tasked with taking on the Kodan Armada and Zur. And I really like how he really portrays this idea that he's way in over his head once he actually gets there. Like, this is not at all what he thought his life was going to be by just beating this video game. And he felt like he was the wrong person for the job. And he just didn't want to die. And I like how they even show that he outright rejects his calling for a time, which many of us do whenever we find ourselves called to bigger and better things. We tend to hesitate or reject it. But then, of course, when he returns, he finds that Earth could be in danger too. And so he ultimately, at the prodding of Centauri and the Beta unit, basically a robot clone of Alex, he goes back. So you have the hero's journey pretty much spelled out right there for you. Alex, the hero who starts in a humble place, called on this great adventure that he doesn't feel like he's prepared for, and at first he resists it, but then eventually he accepts the calling and goes on to ultimately defeat the Kodan Armada. And pretty much the whole hero's journey right there, full circle, in just one movie. So the story, it is a pretty simple story, but it's told really, really well. But what I really want to focus on with this movie is the movie-making technology. Because this movie, I believe, came out in 1984, and it was one of the first movies to use CGI for its effects, for like the effects on the ships and such. Now, it still had its practical effects. For example, when you see the Beta unit transforming into Alex, or when you see Centauri for what he really is when he takes his face off, and for Greg, the sidekick character to Alex, they still have plenty of practical effects and practical sets, especially in regards to Earth. But the actual space battles and such were all done with CGI. Now, granted, this was the mid-'80s, so it's not CGI that we are used to today, where it looks pretty much realistic. But I still liked it for what it was. I think it had a certain charm to it that really is missing in a lot of CGI movies today, because it all looks so good. We're almost spoiled for how good it looks. So it's kind of cool to see where all of that started, and I respect it for that. And then also the designs that they came up with for not only the alien races, but for the ships. You could definitely tell by the designs of the alien races, especially like the really out there alien races, not just Greg, but the ones that look even weirder than him, that there was definitely some Star Wars influence in those alien designs. See, it connects to Star Wars a little bit. And the designs of the ships, especially the ship that Alex pilots, the Gunstar, I would go as far as to say I think that's just as cool, if not a little bit cooler of a design than the X-Wing. Like, I really like that ship design, and I could see a Gunstar being created sooner than I could see an X-Wing being created in real life. And then, of course, the idea that the bad guy ships, they may look simpler in design, but they're the same as what's in the game. In fact, the whole final space battle is very similar to what it is in the game, right down to where they send out those light triangles for Alex to target practice on before the battle. I thought that was really cool, and showing, again, his journey going full circle from where he's just playing this game to where he's actually in the space battle. I thought that was really cool. I thought the bad guys played their parts pretty well. I didn't expect that Zor would get turned on by his own men, but at the same time, I'm also not really surprised given just the overall personality of the character, that very whiny, almost Starscream-like personality where he has to remind people that he's in charge. And immediately you think of the Tywin Lannister line from Game of Thrones, anyone who has to say, I am the king is no true king. And this character perfectly personifies that. And then the Kodan leaders played their parts pretty well. I really like how at the end, when they're realizing that they're screwed and they're about to crash into this moon, the second in command's like, sir, what do we do? And then the leader, having made peace with his own death, is just like, we die. I thought that was really cool. But by far, speaking of lines, by far my favorite line in this, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's favorite line too, is the line that Centauri says to Alex right after Alex says, look, I'm not some great person. I'm just a kid from a trailer park. And then Centauri replies to him, if that's what you believe, then that's all you'll ever be. And that is such a perfect life lesson line that anyone could take and apply to their own life. So overall, I really liked this movie, and this sequel that's supposedly coming out, I will for sure look into it. Come to find out, there's a TV show about this series too. I'll want to check that out for sure. And yeah, those are my thoughts on The Last Starfighter. Real quick before I end this video, a couple things. I have decided to move my Wednesday live streams to Sunday evenings. I think people might watch it a little bit more if I do it on a weekend. So the next two videos will be, of course, about Star Wars Episodes 2 and 3, and then we'll have the live stream talking about the prequels Sunday evening. So make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss those things, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much.